Welcome to So Very Easy. My name is Laura, and let's make a man's reversible apron. It's close enough to Father's Day, so we will be able to get this done. And this project will take an afternoon because there's no hand sewing and no binding. And I was able to get a free pattern from Elizabeth Studios, and the fabric is also from Elizabeth Studios. I'll put a link in the description for you so you can follow along. Now the fabric I have chosen is this great hot pepper fabric because my husband loves to cook with hot peppers. And on the reverse side is going to be bread because, well, he likes to make pizza and bread. It's a very easy pattern to do, and to get started with, you are going to need 2 large squares of fabric at 34 inches. Now it's very important at this point that the 34-inch squares do match. Have the folds together. So I folded them right in half. So this will be 17 inches by now 34 inches. And I'm laying the 2 pieces of fabric on top of each other. So both the folds are right here. And this point, you really need them to match exactly. So make sure they're trimmed up to be exactly the right size. Now with both your fabrics together, you're going to cut the armhole out. It's very easy. Measure over from the fold 5 inches and put a mark. From the bottom up, and this is the cut edge, you need to mark 24 inches. Then you just need to do a curve. Now you can do that just on your own if you'd like, or I have put a pattern piece so you can download it. You can get this in the descriptions. And you're going to cut both pieces together. So at the 5-inch mark, you're going to put the 5-inch pattern, the top piece, right in the top here. So then the 24-inch mark coming from the bottom, you'll be able to put your 24-inch mark right in that corner. And the pattern pieces will match up. Now you can pin the pattern piece on and cut this curve out. Test to make sure that all 4 corners are here and there's no fold. The folds have to be along this edge. And cut that out. The piece has been cut out and you can use this for another project. Now put this aside because we're going to make the pockets next. So for each side of the apron, I want a nice big pocket. So I'm going to need 1 of the matching fabric and 1 of a coordinate. So I have 4 total, and these are 17 inches by 8.5 inches. They're all the same size. Now I'm going to take the fabric, place them right sides together, and sew all the way along 1/4 inch and leave a little opening so you can turn this right side out. So after you've stitched all the way around, we need to just cut off those little corners and cut them up right close to the stitching line, but not on the stitching line. And do that for both pockets on all 4 corners. Turn it right side out and press it. So the pockets have been sewn. And the little seam here, as long as it was on the bottom, will be stitched in, so you do not have to do anything with that right now. Now get the front of the apron to match it up to the pocket. And this fold is going to give me the center mark. Now I need to find a placement to put the pocket. To do that, take the bottom and bring it right up to your edge where you cut the armhole. And just rub it with your hand, and when you open it up, that's going to give you a mark. You can open up the apron and you'll be able to see the center line and the line that you just pressed with your hand. So now we have the pocket. We need to find the center. Fold the pocket in half and just press it with your hand and you'll find that center mark. And that center mark, well, is going to go on the center mark here. The top of the pocket is going to go on the seam that you pressed by hand. Now if you do not want the print showing, you could turn it around and do the solid pocket. So the pocket has been pinned down and I need to stitch right down the center line, and that's going to make 2 pockets instead of 1 big one. Now you can leave it 1 big one if you want. So I'm going to stitch down the center and I'm going to stitch all the way around the bottom up to the sides. And I'm going to do this to both sides of the apron. So we need to make the straps to go around the neck. 3 inches by 24 inches, you're going to need 2 of them. Fold them together and sew across one end and then down all the way to the end of the tube. And leave that end open because you will need to turn this right side out. So you will need 2 of those for the neck. For the waist ties, you need the same measurement as in 3 inches, but it needs to be minimum 36 inches. You can go longer if you'd like. Again, fold them in half, stitch along the top all the way down, and then turn them right side out so you will have 4 nice long tubes, and press them nice and flat. So now to put the straps on. The top straps will go, of course, up at the top here where the bib is. And the raw edge of the strap, not the finished edge, will need to go up in the seam allowance. And put the strap over a little bit so that when you sew the seam allowance, you're not catching the side of the strap, you're only going to catch the top. So you can move it over about 1 inch. The other thing to do is bundle up your strap and pin it out of the way so that it doesn't get caught as you're sewing the rest of the apron together. Now we need to do the side strap. The raw edge is going to go along the side seam, not into that armhole that you cut. And again, move it down about 1/2 inch and pin it into the seam allowance, and again, pin this out of the way. And do that on both sides. Now, all you need to do is sandwich these 2 pieces together. And because you cut them exactly the same, you know they are going to match. Match up all of the seams, pin them, and you need to sew all the way around, leaving a little opening in one of the sides, because this whole thing is going to be turned right side out. So start and do a stitch, a 1/4 inch or whatever you feel comfortable with, all the way around, leaving this open. So it's all been sewn together. Before we turn it right sides out, we really need to clip the seams. We need to clip the corners, so any corner that comes to a point, that little triangle needs to be trimmed off. The other seam we need to trim is the curve here of the arm. Just make little snips going right to the stitching line, and don't cut the stitching line, and do that all the way from where the curve is. So it'd be from here to here in this case. So you're going to put little snips all the way along. You're going to do that on both sleeves. And that way, when this is turned and goes back to itself, you're going to be able to press that nice and flat. You see how they're just snipped right to the seam? All the seams have been clipped. Now, we just need to turn it right side out. So by having these pinned out of the way, you had no mistake of sewing them into that seam. So we can unpin them now. Press all of the seams nice and flat. And for the edge here that you had to turn it, just tuck in the seam allowance, because the next step is to do a straight stitch all the way around as close as you can to the edge, and that is going to seal that, and then you're done. The apron is done, and it has 2 nice pockets on each side. It's reversible, the straps are all done, and well, it was quick and easy. I'll put a link in the description for the fabric from Elizabeth Studios and the patterns to go along with them. I do hope you give this a try. It's a very quick and easy project, and it makes an awesome gift. Thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.